We're now moving on to a passion of mine, which is around digital workspace, end-user computing. I'm lucky enough to have written 3 books now with VMware on this subject. I think why does it resonate with me is I'm a gadget guy. I'm the typical guy that carries 6 devices around with him everywhere because everyone needs 6 devices when they walk around everywhere. I like the latest tools, and I think it's actually the technology that everyone starts their career, or most people, as the kind of first line support person. And it's a complete pain, but you interact with the users and see their pains, and then you kind of go maybe up through server admin, architect, and wherever. But ultimately, no matter where you are in the food chain, what that user is doing and helping that user is actually the bit the business cares about, and it's where I feel that I can make the biggest difference to the user or ultimately to the business. So what is Workspace Transformation Digital Desktop? This is how most of our desktops looked 10 years ago. It was the PC that you provided to the user, plugged into that network cable that you put on their desk, running the applications from your data center that you manage and maintain. What was really important to you is that it was secure and it was easy for you to manage it. So we've then had to modernize the desktop. So what we've done is put a TFT monitor on there desktop, and we've modernized your desktop, guys. The user's happy because they've got it all shiny, but actually they scratched the surface and realized actually it's that, but with a new monitor sat on their desk. Actually what the user wants and what the user is now actually starting to use is more like this. Maybe it's a laptop, not a PC. Maybe it's their iPad they bought in from home. Maybe it's their work phone or their own personal mobile phone. And the applications are probably coming from a mix of your data center and the cloud, whether you like it or not, whether you support it or not. They're probably now connecting over a wireless network than a wired network. However, so many businesses that I speak to have invested so much money in their wired network, making sure it's secure, making sure that it's VLAN, making sure that maybe they use an 802.1x, and then they have a Netgear wireless router in the corner of the office because that's what we had budget for in terms of wireless, and it worked. Things are changing, and not only does the user want to be able to use all these different devices and use applications from elsewhere, they also want to be able to work wherever they want to be able to work. And we used to be able to as IT, I've been there and done it. I was the group policy guy. I was hated by everybody in the company. That's only partly because I managed group policy, but effectively I locked it down so tight that they could only run what I said they were allowed to run. If it wasn't in the whitelist, then they weren't allowed to run it. And that worked at the time because they didn't have another option. If they went to their PC and they couldn't do something, they have to ring me and I had to sort it out for them. Today, they go to their PC and they can't do something, what are they going to do? Pick up their tablet, pick up their iPhone, take their own personal PC in. I was actually at a law firm the other day, so stringent in terms of the policies that they had. In fact, that my guys had to be shadowed around the building where they go and kind of stood outside the toilet while they were on the toilet kind of thing. We were able to break into their wireless within 5 minutes. The users that I sit down and interviewed, because actually part of what I do as my job now isn't the technical side of it, it's actually meeting with the users and actually understanding what do they need, how can they be more productive. And they told me, I'm so ashamed of the PCs that IT give me. They're so heavy and so bulky that actually I've bought one for myself and I use that for my meetings, and they're taking all the meeting notes on it. So whilst IT are sat there all cozy, that they've got encryption on the device, that they've got antivirus, that it's all locked down, it's great, but it's a brick. Because the user is actually using their own device that isn't encrypted, that they're storing the data on Dropbox or on Evernote, and that's what they're doing. They've done the same with mobile phones. They figured they could save some money, and they bought Nokia Lumia devices and gave them to everybody. They're so cheap. In fact, the phone company give us these devices. How can I warrant spending the 150 quid or whatever it is they want for an iPhone up front? The users go, oh, it's just a pain, I can't do anything on it. But actually I found out that what I can do with this app, I can actually get my email. And with this app, I've managed to do X, Y, and Z on it. So actually, they're not using those devices. Whilst it did work, whilst that mentality, we must lock it down, did work, it doesn't anymore. And we're causing, at the moment, we're at a shift between 2 places. So most people are aware of this client-server era. That is where the applications are in your data center and they're using the client that you provide them with. But the whole industry is going into this mobile cloud era. Mobile is first. Most people, I mean, the way that I manage my email now is on my phone. I'll be sat at my desk on my phone, and that's not because I'm on Facebook or Twitter or whatever else. It's because actually I find it easier to manage my email using the apps that are on my phone than Outlook on my PC. people are naturally resonating towards those mobile devices, and our applications are naturally going towards the cloud rather than on the data center. But the problem is we're neither here nor there now. We're kind of working our way across this journey between the data center and the PC and the mobile phone and the cloud applications. But the user is ahead of us. As I've said, they're picking up their own devices, and these are a collection of the applications that I'm seeing that users are going out there using, whether you like them or not. We've already mentioned Dropbox. Slack seems to have come from nowhere in the last year. It was used in the developer community. It's used a lot for real-time collaboration. In fact, you can chuck documents in it and talk around what you're doing with a document. So, hey, I need to collaborate on this Word document with a number of employees. What do I do? Well, have they educated me on Office 365 and all the good stuff that I can do with that? No, okay, I'll try this thing called Slack, because I've typed it in Google and it says I can do that. And then you have teams collaborating on a document with confidential customer information on it in an unsupported platform. Asana is a sort of a task management. Wunderlist is a to-do list. Evernote is a note-taking application. Your users, whether you like it or not, are using these applications and probably others that I'm unaware of. So what is the fix? I've already touched upon industrialization of the desktops isn't a fix. We can't go backwards to kind of improve security, improve what's going on anymore. It's not an option. And if we look at what's happening with IT, with technology, software is driving a complete new industry. If you look at the likes of Uber and where they've come from, the fact they didn't own any cars, I think they own some cars that crash regularly now or whatever, and they were the biggest kind of person transportation system. We've got Airbnb, they don't own any physical properties, and they were the biggest property company in 2015. Software is changing the way it's working, and how long is it before your individual industries will be revolutionized? So if maybe you are, I don't know, so taxis were another great example, I suppose, and that's what happened with Uber. John Deere have recently gone through a modernization and implemented a number of technical solutions that allow their tractors to be more than just big pieces of machinery, but have intelligence to where kind of seed should be planted and how much density there is in individual areas of the field and stuff like that. So actually, how long is it before your industry gets revolutionized, that someone makes the job that you do or your company does, how your company makes money, a lot easier via software? And this all comes back to, how do your users go out and make money for your business, and what could technology do to drive them? Technology should no longer be this black hole where budget gets chucked into. It should be an enabler for the rest of the business. And if you're doing an IT project, you need to kind of stop and think, actually, what benefit is the business going to get for doing this? Am I doing the right thing? So what is workspace transformation? We need to start with the user and understand the user. I mean, really understand them. The amount of IT managers that I sit down with and I say, so what do your users do? And they give me a really kind of fluffy response. Oh, they just spend most of the time in Word and sending emails and stuff like that. And then you actually go and speak to the users and they go, oh, actually, this is what my job is. I come into here and every day it takes me 2 hours just to move this bit of paper into there that I then have to manually retype into this system, and then I go and do this. And understanding those workflows, understanding those processes, understanding the pain points that your users actually have means that we can prioritize what we are doing. We need to focus on the application and the data and not the desktop. Workspace transformation has all been around, how can I get this standard image that I apply to all of my PCs on all the new PCs? How is that customized to the user? How is that allowing the user to work in the best possible way? And ultimately, the desktop doesn't matter. What matters is the application and the data. Can your user get to the application quickly? Is the application doing the right thing? And can they get to their data? The transformation is not led by a product, so I'm not leaving you today. I will talk about a product, but I'm not leaving you today and say this product is your workspace transformation. It's going to answer all of your problems. Because every single one of you, your journey to workspace transformation is different, because it is all about your business and understanding your business and your users. The only way we're going to beat shadow IT is by delivering a workspace that the users want to use. If you deliver something that is so painful, the user is not going to carry on using that. So you say, oh, OneDrive is the solution, it's fantastic, it's just like Dropbox, but you don't give them any education, you don't tell them the best ways to use it, or A, you're not bought into it at all, you think actually Dropbox is better, but this is what I need to tell them, they're going to carry on using Dropbox. They have that choice now. We need to make sure that across anything that we do, we are preserving confidentiality, integrity, and availability for business data, not all business data, which is the CIA triad of information security. And that is our responsibility, to make sure that information is secure. The first change that I would like to suggest is that every single one of these devices on the screen, that includes the PC and it includes the laptop, is a mobile device. We've been treating these differently. So hands up if you've got a mobile device management product in your business. So mobile device management is all around sort of managing the iPad and the iPhone, making sure it's encrypted, making sure it's got a PIN code on it, pushing down applications that are maybe going to matter to your users, sending down updates when they're due. We kind of touched upon the risk of not deploying the updates, which is all great. It means it's flexible. Wherever the user is, we can manage and maintain and control it. We can remotely wipe it. And then we use Norton Ghost from a CD that we still have lying around to image our PCs, which we can't update because the user wasn't on the LAN. They're walking around. We're unable to remotely blank the machine because it needs to come back onto the network for us to be able to send something down to stop the user accessing it. We're using group policy to manage the policies on this desktop. Group policy is fantastic, but it is so stuck in the past that it doesn't suit that modern world. Wouldn't it be ideal if every single one of these was managed by the mobile device management platform, something like AirWatch, that we can control it, change it, update it, roll down software to it, blank it, no matter where it is? Because realistically, we're seeing many more of these now than the PCs that we've got on the desks, and the users have less and less reason to be coming onto our network. In fact, Island, one of our partners, I understand that the majority of their desktops are connecting to just cloud applications based upon the nature of their business and the way that they work. And that is the way that we're all going. The good news is Windows 10 has been designed from the ground up to be managed by a mobile device management platform. So I'm not saying today you can go away and manage it wholeheartedly and get rid of group policy, get rid of your imaging tools and get rid of everything else. But maybe we should start working towards a policy that allows that to happen, that allows us to manage and maintain everything where it should be. The digital workspace is a mixture of identity, devices, application, and data. And it's those four things that we need to take care of. Notice I didn't say the desktop. The desktop is simply a device now. So the desktop used to be that thing with all the icons over it where we accessed our applications. Well, they're not on there anymore, so that's largely irrelevant. It's just a PC that we use to connect to the applications and the data. And the identity is what is using to secure it. Many people say that actually identity is the new perimeter security. So the firewall used to be the perimeter of your business. It used to be the security element. But because so many devices now are more mobile that don't have to connect to your LAN, identity is now your perimeter security. So what are we going to do to make that more robust? We need to work towards modernizing our applications. As much as we would like to say, actually, the applications we've got today are the ones that we're going to use in the future, and I'm just going to move them off to AWS or Island or VMware vCloud Air, we're not. Every single one of those applications that requires to be installed on a server and needs a client on our PC is going to go, and it's going to be modernized at some point in the future. They're kind of like cockroaches, though, those legacy applications, and 25 years later, we're still going to have some of them hung around our data center. I used to be a Lotus Domino administrator, and I'm still trying to get rid of customers that have kind of still got Domino for big databases. We need to enhance employee experience, but we need to maintain data and business security. So let me show you VMware's vision when it comes to digital workspace. Now, don't forget all the other things, and this needs to be customized to the way you're working. I've done too many live demos in my time to know that they can go embarrassingly wrong when you're still on the stage. So I've done a recorded video. It is my video. I'm not showing you something out of the box, and I will talk you through it rather than let you listen to it. So this is VMware Workspace 1. What this is a centralized application console that we can use to bring all of the elements of the digital workspace together. It's fully integrated with your Active Directory, so the users aren't having to manage any more credentials. They can log in from any device, but we're going to show you the PC first. And when they get into there, they get an application workspace. So remember when I was saying that they went to the desktop to load the applications in the past? Well, your applications are more and more going to the cloud, so they're simply not on the desktop anymore. This is that one central place that they can get to their applications and get to their data. We can very quickly and very easily filter those applications. So you could have Office as a filter group, you could have productivity, whatever works for your business. And the users can equally go into it and kind of favorite an application, so they just see what they want to see, the applications they regularly use in their view. So we can see there we've got Google Chrome appearing in Workspace ONE. We can search for applications. So notice I'm searching for Dropbox now, which is obviously largely a software as a service application. If I click this application, and that could be any software as a service application, it single signs me into that. So the important thing here is the user doesn't remember another set of credentials, and IT can control access to all these other software as a service applications from one place. You block that user, they can't access any of your applications, including all of your cloud applications. Ask yourself if you could do that today. We can also have legacy applications. The applications need to run on a Windows device presented using VMware Horizon RDS remote applications. So this is Excel running on an RDS server being presented via PC over IP or Blast Extreme protocol to give you many more benefits over using RDS alone. And they can access those applications on their Grands PC, on their home PC, on their work PC in that secure fashion. We can also run local applications on their machine if it's a trusted machine, and we'll show you that a little bit later. We're just logging in now to salesforce.com. Now this is really important to my business. It's got lots of data on it. So I've actually put multi-form factor authentication on here, and I have a little application on my iPhone that I'll get an alert on saying, is this really you? I click approve, and then I'll go back to my PC, and you can see that I'm then actually logged in to that application. So we can add those layers of security over and above that. So we're now into salesforce.com. I can see my sales pipeline, I can see my customer information, I can see all my previous orders, so on and so forth. We've got a full software catalog where you guys can pre-approve applications that users can add, and they can simply add any of those applications to their workspace by just clicking the Add application down at the bottom. And that can be any one of those applications that we've already said. We can also obviously have full screen desktops. So we can actually have Windows or Linux desktops presented via Workspace ONE. And any of you that have looked in VDI before, because of the advancements in the technology, because of CPU advancements, because of storage advancements, it's now a lot more affordable than it's ever been before. And if you've looked at VDI and gone, it's not suitable for my workload before, the application I'm just running on here is a 3D cage design application of a turbine engine that is going to be spun around. Jaguar Land Rover are using this technology to design their cars. So there's very few workspaces that won't work in a VDI desktop anymore. I'm not saying everyone needs a VDI desktop. It's just one of the options that may work for some of your users. And we can see the full 3D cage design of this turbine engine. It's rotating. I was capturing the screen while this was happening, so that's why there's a little bit of jitter on it. But you can get the idea. This is being rendered on the fly with an NVIDIA Grid graphics card in the background there. The way this is licensed as well, you don't have to go for the full hog. So if you just like the bit where all the applications are together and you're managing authentication, that's the basic licensing. And that's the bit that I urge most people to think about. Because if you think back, actually, do I have a way that I'm confident I could disable access to every single of the applications, including cloud applications today, if a user left the business? Most people are going, maybe I don't think I can. I can block their stuff on the domain, but maybe not elsewhere. So what I'm just doing here is that application Notepad++ is virtualized using VMware XenApp. So it will actually run locally on this machine natively, and it isn't being presented from a remote resource. So I don't need to have an internet connection or anything like that to be able to view applications like this. That desktop as well was fully customized as I logged into it. My applications were placed on it, and my persona was placed onto it as I logged into it. So it's not just a generic desktop that's the same for everyone else. It is completely customized. Finally then, we've gone over to the iPhone. We've got a Workspace ONE application there. We've got one for Android as well. And we can see pretty much the same as we could see. The only things that we won't be able to see are those XenApp applications because they need to run on Windows. So I can't run that. The rest of it we can do. So I've just clicked on to one of those applications, the Salesforce application again. I've already been authenticated recently, and it's opened up the mobile version of that, again with single sign-on. The user hasn't had to sign on again. It's all managed by the Workspace ONE application. I can open up Excel, so that is the Windows version of Excel being ran on that RDS server, being presented to my iPhone. It's not the ideal way to use the desktop version of Excel, but you have those legacy applications that you're never going to be able to get rid of, that if your user could access from home or access on the road, may give you a real business benefit. We also have this tray on the left-hand side, and that means the user can quickly shift between any applications when they're in that desktop, or load up applications rather than trying to use the start menu, kind of sharpening your finger and trying to use the Windows 10 start menu. We've got the application catalog there on the right-hand side, and we can also put iOS native applications that the business may want the users to use, maybe like the timesheet or the attendance application that you want to add to their desktop. And that desktop that had the 3D graphics functionality on it, we can actually access that from the iPhone as well with the full 3D cage design. So I'm lucky enough to be an NVIDIA Grid community champion. And what that means is they fly me over to San Francisco once a year and thank me for talking about NVIDIA at some events and stuff like that. But one of the people they send across works for Bell Helicopters in the US. They completely changed their business model and increased their output by implementing this technology. If you imagine you're designing a custom helicopter, someone has got a CAD application up on the screen and they're designing all the intricacies of it, and it then gets printed out on an A0 plotter. I then go and visit you, sir, and you are my customer, and we roll it out on the table, and I get my Sharpies, and you go, ooh, could I have this bit of trim here? And actually this detail, could I change that? And we draw all over it with a Sharpie. I then go back 100 miles to my office and we get the CAD guy then to update that. What they now do is they take a basic laptop out, they connect to an NVIDIA Grid desktop, and the change happens whilst I'm sat there in front of you. We come away from the meeting with an order and their business process is cut right down. So that doesn't work for everyone, but there are certain workloads where that does work. The other place that this does work is the medical sector. So imagine you're a doctor and you're using a tablet now to look at x-rays and things like that, and you're going from patient to patient. Previously, they would have had to have logged into one PC, logged out, gone to another one, logged into it. With this now, they can either swipe card into a terminal and get the same desktop up every time with the same applications already loaded, or they can have an iPad and they can get that information and take it from desk to desk to desk in a secure mobile manner. So that's VMware Workspace 1. Centralizing of applications. The desktop no longer represents the links to all the applications our user wants to use. They've got some there. They've got some that are maybe in bookmarks in Internet Explorer or Chrome or Edge or whatever it is we're using now. And we've got some legacy applications that maybe can't work on the desktop they're using. Maybe it only works in XP. We can bring all those together in one centralized view. We gain the benefit of single sign-on, so the user doesn't know any of the passwords for any of those cloud applications. They only know their Active Directory one. And even if you go directly to salesforce.com and try and log in, it will direct you back to Workspace 1. You type your Active Directory credentials in, and it will take you back to salesforce.com. It's fully federated. That user leaves the business. You go to one place and disable the user. All their on-premise applications or their cloud applications are completely cut off. We optionally can have access to the full desktops as well as the software as a service applications and the XenApp applications. And behind all of this is AirWatch. So if you also want to manage your mobile devices, set the policies. If you want to manage your PCs, set policies on your PCs. What we're having coming out in AirWatch very, very soon is a product called A Squared that will allow you to package applications onto a physical desktop PC as well and layer them on demand to those PCs to keep them updated. But that's only the beginning of this technology. A few more advancements. So this is the Windows 10 example. This is straight out of the box. This isn't on your domain. We go into Windows 10, we type in connect to your work, they supply your credentials into it. That machine is now fully on your domain, has downloaded AirWatch, has downloaded Workspace 1, and the user is now ready to work. They haven't had to come to IT and have it prepped, ready for them to start using it. They've taken it out of the box, they've done it, and the policy behind it is then customizing that desktop for them. And as you can see, all those demos that I just showed you will then work on the back end to then allow you to do everything else. What we can also do with AirWatch is document level encryption, document level protection. So I've got a Word document here, and maybe it's got some very confidential information on it that I wouldn't want going to another source. If I was to try and copy that and maybe paste it into something like Twitter, AirWatch knows that that data is encrypted. And even though I've copied it out of Word and I'm trying to paste it somewhere else, it won't let me do that. This is encrypted. So how can you make sure that your users aren't accidentally sending documents to someone else, your nearest competitor, and you're keeping that information secure? This is a great way of being able to do that. And finally, we can take it to the nth degree. So this is a mobile application that connects back to our data center and reports on a number of statistics in our sales database. It actually uses a per app VPN tunnel for each and every application. So we don't have the whole device connected to your data center, we have one app. In your data center, you're running VMware NSX to micro-segmentize your network to say, actually, this user can access only this application, this application, and this application. We've just changed that policy at a click of a button, and what you will see is actually we can now only access 2 of the servers to get the information, and we can't access these 3. And we can very quickly, very easily go and change those policies on the fly. So much so that with those desktops that we saw earlier, the credentials around the user are what matters. So me and Derek could log into the same VDI desktop, but it knows who I am and it lets me have access to everything. And it knows Derek's maybe a bit of a dodgy geezer and I don't want to give him access to everything, and he gets only to see 2 servers. So the security boundary is no longer that network cable that is plugged into it, or the virtual network cable, and that's the VLAN you're on, that's the security context you get. It is the identity is managing actually what the user can see on the network. And that's one of the many features of VMware NSX. But don't forget about the applications and the users. So all of that was lovely, but that is a framework to allow you to deliver your desktop transformation. It's the bit that will get the applications that much quicker to the user. I mean, the user can access the applications from home, from their mobile device, and it will get their data to them where they want it, when they want it. One of the biggest cloud applications that I see being actually driven by the businesses is Office 365. Hands up if you have adopted Office 365. Hands up if adopting 365 largely means you've moved your email to Office 365 and that's it. Got some brave people. So what we're seeing with a lot of businesses is what an Office 365 migration looks like is they move your email from your on-site Exchange server to Office 365. And then IT, if you're lucky, tells everyone that you can now use everything else that's in Office 365. And that's where the project is left. There's a number of problems with that. The first problem is actually, as an IT department, when you deploy a piece of software as a service application, or software as a service, when you apply a bit of application as a software as a service, you are responsible for the security and protection of that data just as much as you are on premise. It doesn't sprinkle the magic pixie dust on it and remove your responsibility. So how many of us are aware that Office 365 by default doesn't back up the data in the mailboxes? That some of the plans actually has an archiving element to it, but by default it's set to the minimum value and it's not set to the top value. There are other applications that I see. The largest one for me is like HR databases seem to be the one that go off to the cloud. What data center are in? What protection levels have they got? How are you stopping yourselves being the next Morrisons? And you can't just go, well, it's not my responsibility anymore, it's someone else's responsibility. Because as soon as that data leaves the business, your business will be looking for someone to blame. You are the custodian of the data, and unfortunately, us as IT guys, if it's got a plug on it or it's got data on it, it's likely to be our responsibility. We need to have a framework as to understanding some of these elements, and we need to have a framework as to how we're going to drive adoption of technology into the business. With Office 365, let's start with the user. Let's understand what's the user's task. What are they going to do? Let's map that to 2, 3, or 4 applications in Office 365 that we're going to drive an adoption plan inside of our business that will include end user training by some shape or means, whether that's short, sharp bursts. Look at this fantastic application and how it's going to help you. Whether it's videos, short videos that get put on the intranet, whether it's some kind of e-learning but in some kind of way that is really engrossing to the user. Fantastic example is Megan, who manages these events like today, uses Microsoft Planner that was released in early access about 6 to 8 months ago. Megan uses that for managing all of the events, all of our marketing campaigns. She can allocate tasks to me. I don't know how happy I am about that, to make sure I've got my presentation going. That's a fantastic application. It means she's no longer using something like Wunderlist to manage that. It's in the context of what IT have signed off, and IT are happy for that data to be utilized. There are nuggets of information in there, but I can guarantee to you the only way you will have success of rolling adoption for something like this is if you grasp the horns, maybe go and see HR and understand actually what can we do together. This is no longer just a technology project, this is an enablement project, and we need to drive change and transformation. So my kind of stepped guide for how you drive cloud adoption strategy, but particularly for the applications, is start with a plan. If you don't have a plan, it's not going to be successful because you don't know what the end goal looks like, you don't know how you're going to get from A to B. Make sure you know how you're going to protect the data in the cloud. So it's not just this bit of software ticks all of our boxes, it's going to allow us to do everything we need as a business. Unless it allows the protection and security of your data, it's still not the right application for your business. And there are so many cloud applications out there. How many of us, and I am guilty of this, when you have a problem that you think a bit of software can fix, you go to Google, you find the product, this looks good, you see there's a free trial, so you click the free trial, you sign up, you start using a bit of software, and if it's the answer, that's the piece of software that you use. Well, actually, is that written by a guy that's sitting in his bedroom that's just started up the business? What framework has got behind it? What protection standards have they got behind it? How am I going to make sure I'm protected? And ultimately, if the user leaves, how am I going to make sure I block access to that application as well as all the other applications? A big one for me is things like Evernote that could contain a lot of meeting information that maybe my sales guys go around and they go, I'm going to use Evernote to store this stuff in. If they leave, they not only might take ComputerWorld data with them, they might take my customers' data. And that's my responsibility because they were my employee when they took that data. So by driving the adoption of OneNote and explaining to them how to use it, showing them some real business benefits, we can stop that. So once we've protected it, we enable the users. What training can we give them in what means to make them want to use it, to make it the easy choice for them? And then how do we then start our migration in a way that is going to be staged, that is going to be easily managed and maintained? So that's my session on workspace transformation, and I don't think it is something that any of you are going to go away tomorrow and go, right, we're going to start workspace transformation. It's not the thing that happens overnight, but it is something that I suggest that all of us think about a little bit more seriously. If we sit there and go, actually, workspace transformation, whatever, that was a marketing presentation that Barry did, and we don't do anything, and we try and keep that legacy desktop with the updated monitor, I can guarantee you, you are losing control of what you should be managing. The user is taking over, Shadow IT is taking over, whilst you continue to manage their physical PC that they no longer care about. So let's take some baby steps.